Hello guys, here we are, part 4, part quatre, yeah, my French is that good, yeah, part 4. So, we've been looking at other dishes. We've done some sauces, we've done some cheesecakes, we did the cookies in the first week. This week, nice, great stuff here today. We're doing a dough, but we're going to make that dough into two different things, a sweet thing and a savoury thing. So that's going to be really cool, okay? So I want to go through that, but first of all, I'm going to ask my production team behind the camera, okay, if they could zoom in on these in the front here. So these here, okay, Year 7 have been doing me some different designs for the WAC Cookery Club, Wellington Academy Cookery Club. They've been doing some different designs and they've been emailing them to me, sending them through Teams, and they've been really busy there, and there's some great designs coming out there. So thank you guys. If you've got any more ideas, any more plans on any of these designs, just get them done, send them in to me. But thank you, really, it's fantastic, okay? So I wanted to say that. I wanted to make sure that you guys are all happy. You're there at home, and weather's getting a little bit better now. I know it's been really cold, but I'm hoping you're getting out and doing some walks, and maybe at the weekend when there's a snow, you're getting out there and you're having a bit of play in the snow. That would be really cool, yeah? But get out there, exercise, keep smiling, all right? So, like I say, last week I did cheesecakes. We did the two different styles of cheesecakes. One was a nice easy set one in the fridge, the other one was baked in the oven. I took the one that was baked in the oven, I took that one home and I thought it was really nice. I don't know what you guys did, I don't know if you tried it, but it was really, really cool. So I'm hoping you enjoyed that. So we've got Italian things happening here this week. And Italian cookery is great. It's nice and simple. I know they try and make it look complicated, but it's not complicated. It's nice and simple. And what I thought we'd start with the Italian this week is making a dough up, a bread dough, a simple bread dough, okay? And then we're going to make it into two different dishes. One's a calzone, and I'm going to do a sweet calzone. We're going to do a chocolate calzone. It's lovely, all right? And you can vary that one and change it, but it's a really nice, quick, easy dessert. And then the other one, of course, I'm just going to do a nice, straightforward pizza base for you. I'm going to roll the pizza out, bake that off, push some stuff on top of there, and then you can have a look at how I'm doing that. I'm going to do today's lesson, whatever we want to call this thing. I'm just going to do it in 3 sections today. I'm going to make make the dough in the first section, then I'm going to do the pizza, and then I'm going to do the calzone at the end. So you can kind of have a break in between. It's like, oh no, chef's talking at us. All right, so here we go. Nice and easy. Now, dough. Whether you're making dough for pizzas, whether you're making it for calzone, whether you're making dough for bread, whatever you're making dough for is so easy. I'm making so much dough at home at the moment. I don't know, it's like Hovis factories at the moment at home. But the one thing I wanted to talk to you about today was this bad boy here. And I'll just get Mr. Now this bad boy here, this is your yeast. Now at the moment this yeast is asleep. It's just chilling out, it's not really doing anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to wake that yeast up, and we're going to get that yeast working for us, and that's going to make our bread rise. And we're going to just follow a couple of simple instructions to make that happen. Because I do believe, in the years that I've been making dough, that if you get this bit right, get the yeast right and what's needed, what it needs, then your bread is going to be fine. It's not going to be a problem. People always panic about making things like this. It's not. It's just so easy. And there's dry yeast that you can get these days. You can get fresh yeast. I was in Morrison's the other day. They're selling fresh yeast, 4 packs of it for 55 pence. You could use fresh yeast. Fantastic. Dry yeast keeps for ages and ages, weeks and weeks in your dry store, and it's always there when you need it. So this is a living thing. It's a type of bacteria, but it's a nice bacteria. It's a good bacteria. It's the sort of bacteria you might be using in cheeses and things like that. So, you know, it's not going to harm you, this bacteria. okay? But it's sleeping at the moment. So what we've got to do is we've got to give it what it needs, and what it needs, all right, like you and I, like anything that's a living thing, it needs a bit of warmth, it needs a bit of food, and it needs some moisture. Talking of moisture, shall I go for coffee? No, I won't. I'll leave it. All right? So, give it those things, a little bit of love, and it will start to do whatever you want it to do. And it's so cool, and it's so quick. So, let's start making it. Remember, this is the key to the whole thing. All right? If we don't get this right, then we just end up with something that's like that. So I'm going to make a really, really simple bread dough here, okay? You know, even when I'm making bread doughs at home, I don't always weigh everything out. It's literally that, and then a bit of that, and a bit of that. Yes, chef, you've made it a few times. Literally, once you've made it a couple of times, you get it, all right? So in here, I've got some strong flour. Now that's important because if I use plain flour for this, it won't rise as well. Okay, I need to use some strong bread flour. You get it from any supermarket, loads of it out there, okay? So get some strong bread flour. I'm using white here today. Yeah, you could use brown, it's not a problem, but I'm going to use white, okay? Into that, now I'm going to get myself a bowl over here so you guys can see what's happening. I've got my flour, and see if I've got a sieve somewhere. I'm going to sieve my flour. Only because I'm going to make sure I get the lumps out, get some air in there. Lovely. I've got my flour sieved. Into there, pinch of salt, good pinch of salt. And into there, I'm going to put my fat. Just a little bit of fat. Now all the fat will do for this recipe is it just keeps it fresher a bit longer. A lot of countries, France, they probably wouldn't put fat in their dough. All right, their doughs and their breads are lovely, no fat in there, so their bread doesn't last as long. You know, by the end of the day, they're probably throwing their bread out or using it for something else. So I put a bit of fat in there, and that will keep the bread or the dough for a good couple of days mixed in. Not going too crazy. Fantastic there. Now, put that back in there a second. So, what we're going to do now is try and get our yeast kind of working. What I've done over here is I've just warmed some water. Just warmed it. And I think for this one I need 120 mils of water. Now what I do, because small amounts of water are really difficult to try and measure out. You know, you get the jug and you're kind of like, oh right, okay, is that right? Is that right there? And then if your table's not right, and it's just, oh, so difficult. And so it's just as easy when you're doing small amounts of liquid to actually just weigh it, because the gram is the same as a milliliter. Okay, so I need 120. So what I'm going to do there, I've got my bowl on there, my scales are now at 0, and into there I'm just going to keep pouring so I get to 120. Went too far, miss. There we go. Look at that. I'll tell you what, don't know how I do it for the money. Right, so 120 mils of water. All right, nice and accurate. So I've weighed it, and as I say, milliliters are the same. Now into there I'm going to put my yeast. This is asking for about 7 grams of dried yeast. Oh, come on, if I was doing this at home, this would be about a teaspoon. Into my warm water. Now my yeast has got the moisture and it's got the warmth because I've warmed this water, and this water is the same temperature as my hands. about 37 degrees, although some people might say that I'm probably operating at about 20 degrees because they think I'm dead from the where, yeah, you know. But no, it's 37 degrees, okay? The yeast loves that. It's like, ooh, it's warm in here and it's moist. There's moisture and there's warmth. One thing missing. What we got missing? Sugar, that's right. That's the food. Okay? Now I'm going to put some sugar in there. That's the food that's going to feed our yeast. Now, we're going to put the recipes out here today, and they're both dough. There's dough on both of the recipes. One's for the pizza and one's for the calzone. The only difference is that one of them has got slightly more sugar in it. The calzone, the sweet dough, slightly more sugar in it, okay? Because they want to sweeten the dish a bit. But I'm not putting so much sugar into this one. I just want a little bit of sugar in there, just to start the yeast working. And literally, you will notice within just a few minutes, tiny, tiny bubbles going to the surface of that. That yeast is now waking up and it's thinking, hello, I've got moisture, I've got food, I've got some warmth. Yeah, this is great. And what's happening now is the bacteria is waking up, the yeast is waking up, and it's starting to reproduce. And as it's reproducing, it's giving off carbon dioxide. That's what these little bubbles are. And that is what's going to make our bread rise. So we're going to get that in there, we're going to knead it. The yeast is thinking, right, I've got everything I need here. Let's go for it. Starts reproducing carbon dioxide bubbles, and that's going to make our bread rise. Dead easy. You notice, I just want to pull this out, yeast doesn't like salt. So I put the salt in here. Don't put the salt in here, in the liquid. You'll kill the yeast. It's like, oh, I don't like salt. Okay? So, there we go. Right. Now, I can see it, you probably can't see it, but I can see that starting to fizz now, and little tiny bubbles coming to the top, and that's fantastic, because I know now that my yeast is alive and it's working. My camera crew are just coming in, zooming in on that, so you can see the tiny little bubbles. I'll leave that for any longer, and that will go all frothy, and eventually it goes so frothy that it comes right up the side of the bowl here. Okay? But I know now my yeast is working, it's got what it needs, so I can get it into my mixture here. Okay, so it's in there. I'm using my hands. Don't use spoons. If I put a metal spoon in here now at this point, it's cold. It's going to take out the heat from here. Don't use metal spoons. Wooden spoons I could use, but my hands. What's wrong with my hands? Great. That's what I love about making doughs and breads. It's such a tactile thing. And it's great because on teams you've probably had like teachers that are really like made you really kind of because they put lots of work up on teams and you're like, I've got so much work to do. And then you're like, I'm really frustrated and angry now. I need to go and take out my frustrations and anger on something. This is it. This is great for taking out your frustrations and anger. Oh, here we go. I'm going to use a drop of this water. A bit dry. Drop of water in there. Don't add too much. It's always easier to add rather than take away. That's it. Wonderful, look at that. So that's great. So, okay, looking great. So what I'm going to do now, turn it out on the table and just knead it on the table. And this is where you can have loads of fun now, because all you're going to do now is stretch it, pull it back here. Just go to town on it. This really doesn't want you to be keen, it doesn't want you to be overly nice to it now. It wants you to kind of like, pull it apart and really go for it. And just tear that thing apart and just keep working on it. Put some good music on or something in the background, something with a good beat, and you just keep kneading there. It's not hard, it's not hard work this. This is very light, it's really, really easy. Okay? Keep stretching it, rolling it, pulling it back like this. Wonderful. Italian cookery is very, very simple. They use very simple ingredients. It's not complicated with lots and lots of different ingredients. But one thing they're really insistent on in Italian cookery is the quality of the ingredients. And that's really, really important. So if they're going to use tomatoes, they're going to use nice, ripe tomatoes, full of flavour. I've been very lucky. I've been to Italy a few times, and I've been to Naples a few times. And I remember the first time I got to Naples. It's a crazy city. It's absolutely crazy because, it's just cars everywhere and people just, it's just like an assault on your senses. And it's like, first thing I just need to go somewhere quiet and have a pizza. And I just found this little pizza bar, and I just went in there and I just ordered a very simple tomato and cheese pizza. Nothing fancy on the top, just a little bit of olive oil. And I can tell you now, I've never tasted anything like it. The quality, it was just some back street place, did a pizza. It wasn't anything fancy, it wasn't a fancy restaurant. Pizza was just a dough like this, just some fresh tomato on there, a little bit of mozzarella on there, and the flavour, I can still taste that pizza today. So you haven't got to go crazy. Look at that now, that's getting nice and smooth now. We get to a point that I laughingly call the baby's bottom point. The baby's bottom is where we can turn the dough inside out like this, and our dough gets nice and smooth like a baby's bottom. Not seeing too many lumps there. This is nice. See these tears around the side here? This is good. That shows the dough, that shows the yeast is working, and the yeast is already giving off the carbon dioxide and starting to work in the dough. So that's great. I'll get the worst of the dough off my hands. Okay, so that's our dough. It's simple as that. Now that, like I say, I could make pizzas out of that, calzone. I could make bread rolls out of that. I could make a loaf of bread out of that. I could just keep it as it is, make a loaf of bread. It's got to go somewhere to prove now. And this is approved. What we do with dough is we prove it. Basically, yeast is great, but when you give it everything that it needs, you give it all the things, and you give it the warmth and the love and the food and everything, it just goes crazy. It just goes and then what happens is all the bubbles inside the dough are not equal size, big and small and all that sort of thing. So what we need to do is let it go crazy now and do its thing, and then what we're going to do shortly is come back to it, knead it once more, knock all that air out, and what it will do is it will work again, but this time it will work and it will give off smaller, neater bubbles, and we end up with a better texture. Right, so that's the first part of our section today, just on making our bread dough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this in a bowl. I'm going to put a damp cloth over the top, leave it somewhere warm, top of a radiator, somewhere like that, somewhere warm, and then that will start to work for us. So I'll talk to you again in a minute. Be good now.